You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hi, Young and the Restless watchers. We have got some sizzling spoilers for next week as Ian Ward decides to wipe out a whole pile of Newmans and taunts Nikki about destroying her family. Plus, there's a double kidnapping, a dire warning, and guilty parties trying to hide what they did. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and if you're not subscribed, please click that button. And now let's get into some of the good stuff coming next week in advance of our full weekly spoilers video you will get tomorrow as usual. All right, let's start with guilty consciences and excuses. On Friday's episode, it sure looked like Jordan Howard took a big dose of toxic tea and expired. If she is well and truly dead because Claire used Jordan's oolong to say so long and filled it up with agave half and half and about half a bottle of sleeping pills, then she's dead. It was enough for Jordan to sleep with the fishes, take a dirt nap, whatever you want to call it. As Claire, Victoria, Nikki, and Victor watched, Jordan's time ran out and she collapsed and then apparently died, and they tossed a blanket over her. And Victor said he would have her removed and his security would say she killed herself after being caught after escaping prison. I will say this, if Jordan really is dead, I'll be bummed. She specifically said she'd rather be dead than stuck in Victor's captivity again. And that's why I'm hoping that he knew Claire would use sleeping pills and somehow swap them, or maybe Victor and Claire had a side deal to fool Victoria and Nikki into thinking that Jordan died so they can lock her up and torment her. If she is really dead, for me, kind of anticlimactic, even though, her acting is always great. I love Colleen Zenk and she had fun in these scenes, but gosh, I just hope she's not dead. I just feel like too soon. So next week, somebody is at the tack house asking about Claire's crazy Aunt Jordan. It looks kind of like it's Michael Baldwin, and he may suspect Victor of, kidnapping her and locking her away again, since Cole found his aunt in Victor's basement at the other house. He reported it to Michael last year. I think it was around May. And Victoria is asking Michael why anything else matters as long as Jordan is gone for good. And maybe Michael's just trying to figure out if she really is gone for good and not just in a holding cell somewhere. Claire is sitting with her mom as they chat with Michael. Meanwhile, Victor tells somebody that they should trust him, that this is not over. He could be chatting with Michael or Nick. One of them would be my guess, unless he's talking to Adam Newman. When they have scenarios like this where Victor and the other Newmans are in danger, I always hope they will write Adam, and give him a chance to play hero, since the rest of the family tends to treat him like dirt. And with Ian still on the loose, maybe he'll get the chance. I think that would be fun, but we'll see. Victor seems to know that Jordan's over and done with, but Ian is still on the loose. And now that Jordan has made her deathbed confession that Ian killed Heather, no doubt the GCPD is out looking for him. And I do wonder if she lied and it was Jordan that actually killed Heather on his orders, because she was doing his dirty work and complaining he hadn't done hers. So the whole crisscross thing, I tend to think that Jordan did that murder, but she may have left clues or evidence to lead back to Ian, even if she was the one that bashed her head in. Daniel, Lucy, and Phyllis will all be shocked to find out it was Ian Ward and not Sharon. Unfortunately, Mariah blames herself for the destruction of the Stevens-Romalotti family, since she knows Ian came back for her. However, I will say this, Heather was not a random target and was not selected specifically because of Mariah. Ian wanted to kill someone that he could then frame Sharon for so he could rip her out of Mariah's life. But Ian may explain why he chose Heather instead of, say, Daniel or Phyllis or somebody else that Sharon has some kind of troublesome history with, even Nikki, really, And it's likely because Ian despises Heather's father, Paul Williams. If you remember, way back in the cult days, Nikki and Paul were both in his cult, and Ian's cult itself and the property where they lived were destroyed by Paul's dad, who then arrested Ian. So I feel like killing Heather was a clap back on Paul, which indeed worked because he wound up having a heart attack, as well as a convenient way to frame Sharon for something bad. And now, speaking of Mariah, in addition to Ian targeting her mom, he has moved on to actively targeting her little family next week. Ian already drugged Tessa once to trigger that incident with her breathing so he could, give her the inhaler, play hero, and set up his alibi for the time of Sharon's kidnapping. And now it looks like Ian drugs or drags Tessa off again. Last week, Ian was low-key gaslighting Tessa into believing he sincerely wants forgiveness. And when Mariah saw Tessa was buying his BS story, she blew up at her wife. And now, next week, with her wife and daughter missing, Mariah feels just sick about this fight and all of it. She comes to the ranch and tells her mom Sharon and also Nick that Tessa and little Aria are missing. Mariah says they're not at the house. She can't find them anywhere. Tessa's not answering her calls. Plus, Aria's favorite stuffed toy was left behind. So as we head into next week, the big question is, what is the end game with taking Mariah's wife and kid? Does Ian plan to steal them and keep them away from her to make Mariah feel as bad as he did when he lost her to Sharon? Or is Ian using Tessa and the baby to lure Mariah to where he wants her so he can capture her too? I have wondered for a while if Ian might try and take all three of them out of Genoa City with him to form some kind of new twisted little family. Nick and Sharon are distraught to learn that Ian struck again next week, but he's far from done. So also next week, Nick, Victor, and Michael are taken by surprise at the new ranch house when Ian trespasses and holds them at gunpoint. Victor is sitting there as Nick and Michael stand at either side. Ian is waving a gun at them while yelling up the stairs for Nikki to come down. Ian is taunting her and shouting to come on down so she doesn't miss what's about to happen to her family. He's gonna threaten to kill them. He may even plan to kill them. And of course, we know that it's not going to work out. He's going to be the one who winds up in trouble. And if Ian Ward is going to die, I would much rather Mariah gets to be the one to pull the trigger, wield the knife, whack him with a wrench, whatever clue death mode they decide on. I think it would be great if it was Mariah in the library with a candlestick. But there's always a chance that Nikki could come down with a gun tucked in her pocket and take out Ian like he's a raccoon in her trash. Nikki whacked JT Hellstrom in the head with a fireplace poker and thought she killed him and buried him in a shallow grave, with a little help from some friends. And Ian is 100 times worse. So yeah, Nikki would do it if she got the chance. As Sweeps kicks off on Thursday, January 30th, we might get a 2-day Ian Ward killing spree targeting the Newmans next week, as well as Mariah and her wife and their daughter. The only question is, who is going to leave this week alive and who leaves it dead? Will Nikki be the one to take Ian by surprise? We'll see.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.